what is this Sustainable HRM?
Sustainable HRM is the strategic evolution of HR.
Can you briefly explain what these 4 HR challenges are?
The organizations responded that their biggest challenges were attracting talent, continuous learning and skills, increasing productivity, increasing the job satisfaction.
Why these 4 pillars/challenges?
It's what the organizations in their practice, they think is the highest HR priority for their organization at the moment.
Could you give an example of a normal practice and a practice that would be a sustainable one?
We see a lot of companies that they are able to attract talent, but they lose 20 to 30% within 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably buying employees.
There's not even a clear picture of what the importance of these topics are.
No, there's no single unified definition amongst practitioners.
Which were the sustainable HRM teams that got highest scores?
So almost 80% agrees that continuously learning and skill development is a sustainable HRM theme. So that's actually why we do this research, to offer language and offer a framework where you can assess your organization and really see, okay, where am I at the moment?
What advice would you give to a company that would like to start looking seriously into sustainable HRM?
The first step for me, you do some sort of a self-assessment. Success in sustainable HRM naturally leads to higher productivity, and that's the topic that will get you buy-in at the board.
There's no cost in participating, right?
No, absolutely not.
No cost to download the report later on when the results are released?
No. This is really an initiative from our foundation, and this is how we want to give back.
Okay, thank you for your availability and interest in having this conversation. It's a pleasure having you here today on the show.
Thank you, João. The pleasure is all mine.
As an introduction, for those that don't know you yet, you are the co-founder of a company called ImpactWork, and you're helping organizations with the transformation to sustainable work. Your company created a survey and a report to inspire, motivate, and provide direction in the transformation to sustainable and forward-looking HRM approach. Is this a good summary of your profile so far?
Yes, thank you. That's what we do. We are HR consultancy, and we're focused on sustainable HRM, and I think we'll be talking about that a little bit more today.
We will. So let's start and try to understand, or make everyone understand, what is this sustainable HRM. So can you briefly describe what you mean by that? And HRM, I'm assuming here, and I may be wrong, by HRM is HR management?
Well, actually, we call it human relations management because we don't really want to see employees as resources. So it's sustainable human relations management within organizations.
And so what is this? Can you describe a little bit?
I think sustainable HRM is the strategic evolution of HR, where we aim to achieve positive economical, social and ecological results simultaneously, and both for the short and the long term. And those balance between, so it's actually 2 balances. You create balance between economic, social, ecological results of your HR strategy and policies and practices. And also you create a good balance between short-term and long-term effects.
So this sounds connected with the idea of the triple bottom line, right? When your companies end their years and they have the bottom line profit, ecological footprint, and social footprint. I'm sure. Is this based on that idea?
There are a lot of definitions from scientific research, but we think this is the definition that works best actually in practices. It's a logical translation indeed of a company's sustainable business strategy into the HR team's daily operation.
The 2025 report was the first survey that you released?
Yes. So after some years that we just were active as advisors in the market, we found that there's a lot of scientific research, but actually, if we wanted to find out how am I doing as a company, if we wanted to help organizations assess where they are at the moment in terms of their transition towards sustainability within the HR domain, there was not a lot they could do. And also, we could not really track progress on the implementation of sustainable HR practices in the market. So we launched this research, which is really aimed at practitioners. So HR professionals, HR leaders, or C-level roles that are responsible for HR.
And by the way, if anyone listening is interested in downloading the last year's report, the link is in video description, as well as for the link for the survey of this year. And we'll have a chance to talk about that, to invite or convince companies to participate as well. I read a little bit of report to prepare this conversation with you. It mentioned around 188 organizations that participated. Right? Can you talk a little bit more about the kind of professionals that were part of these findings that we'll discuss today?
Yeah, so the aim was that we got respondents for the types of organizations in all sizes. So it's both large corporates as well as SME. Mm-hmm. And with 188 is a good result for the first year. But with 188, you cannot cover all sectors and industries. So if we want my dream for this research, we will do it annually. Is that we can also make a lot of slicing and dicing on sector and industry because it makes it even more relevant.
Right.
So types of organizations are large and small and different industries, but we definitely are looking for a more wider audience.
I saw that your website, and the report, it's based on 4 pillars. I'm calling it 4 pillars. You call it the 4 biggest HR challenges. Can you briefly explain what these 4 HR challenges are for us to understand the components of the report?
So the organizations responded that their biggest challenges were attracting talent, continuous learning and skills. Third one is increasing productivity. And the fourth one is increasing the job satisfaction or employee happiness. And that's quite interesting because increasing productivity is on an organizational level a large priority. But CHROs, I mean, your podcast is aimed also at CHROs.
I hope so.
They don't always agree that that is their responsibility, or that they actually have a large role to play in the increasing the productivity. That was one of the things that I find really interesting and had a lot of conversations about since the report came out.
Why these 4 pillars / challenges? Is it based on some kind of literature?
No, it's what the organizations in their practice they think is the highest HR priority for their organization at the moment. Mm-hmm. So that's why these are the 4, and it kind of makes sense, of course, that in talent shortage, attracting talent is quite important. Then, because of AI and other technology, our work is changing rapidly. So continuously learning and skill and reskilling. Mm-hmm. is a high priority everywhere. And then productivity is also connected to having a shrinking labor population. If we want to continue to have the same profits, so to say, we need to find a solution for our productivity. And I guess the fourth one, increasing the employee happiness, also makes a lot of sense. It's the golden age of the worker. Where to work more than 10 years ago. They are now in a position to look for more happiness during their work.
For us to really understand the difference between traditional approach and the approach of a sustainable HRM, for one of those areas, could you give an example of a normal practice and a practice that would be a sustainable one?
Yeah, so attracting talent, we see a lot of companies that they are able to attract talent, but they lose 20 to 30% within 12 months. Mm-hmm. So they're probably buying employees, but they're not really making the connection on a culture, on a DNA level. Their recruitment process apparently doesn't really work that way, that you really find the connection with the employee. And also we see that if you want to recruit sustainably, you have to take care of diversity and inclusion in that process. People have to feel that they get a real chance, regardless of what they look like, where they come from, or what age they are. So those are some examples. And in terms of increasing worker happiness, I think we have to move away from just once every 3-year engagement survey. If you really want to know what's going on, you need to do continuous employee listening. That sounds really easy, but it's really hard to implement if you're a 1,000-employee company. On a weekly basis, you want to understand how everybody's doing. It's possible. Organizations have done it. They have implemented it. The tooling is there. But that's a really, I think, practical example. You want to know how your employees are doing every week. or once every 3 years.
So you gave the example of the engagement survey. From an operational point of view, what kind of questions are you asking in this survey to the companies? Is it how likely my company is doing this or that, or how likely I would like my company to do this or that?
The sustainable HR themes, what we ask is, do you have a strategy for each theme in your organization? And how happy are you with the progress on this theme in your organization? And also, how much of a priority is this for your organization in the coming years? And if you combine those answers, you get really interesting results, because you sometimes see that the ones that are really a priority for the company and they're not happy about the progress, but they also don't have a strategy for it. And that sounds maybe stupid if I put it like this, but in a lot of in a lot of companies, this exists. If you really ask, do you have a strategy to create more worker happiness? Not a lot of companies have that. It's important. It's in the KPIs. It's in the boardroom reporting.
Mhm.
But really, a strategy to increase worker happiness structurally, so that it becomes an asset for the company, really a competitive advantage. Not a lot of companies do that.
Right.
So we have HR strategy or people and culture strategy, but not on every sustainable HRM theme there's a strategy existing in the company.
I assume there's worldwide that confusion that you mentioned between existing priority, working or not. So should be very interesting to look at the results.
Yeah.
The report starts showing the actual disagreement between HR decision makers about the sustainability HRM topic. So there's not even a clear picture of what the importance of these topics are.
No, there's no single unified definition amongst practitioners. Most agree on themes like continuous learning and a healthy work environment and equal pay, even productivity, but only 30%. This fragmentation shows that we are still in a transition phase where the strategic value of sustainability is being discovered theme by theme. And also the role of HR is shifting rapidly, but organizations are in different stages. So that's one of the root causes, I think, that this fragmentation exists, and that we don't agree on what are the themes of sustainable HRM. Because one CHRO is already co-chairing employee productivity programs with the operational officer and maybe the CIO, where others are still heavily absorbed by HR administration. So the role of HR, I think we can agree, or people and culture in organizations, is shifting rapidly. And the fact that everybody is on a different phase there, I think that's being represented by the answers in this research.
So based on the answers, which were the sustainable HRM teams that got highest scores?
So almost 80% agrees that continuously learning and skill development is a sustainable HRM theme. And then 72% agrees that healthy work environment and social safety are a sustainable HRM theme. 65% for both employee satisfaction and engagement, as well as work joy or worker happiness. And after that, only half agrees that attracting talent and equal pay are the sustainable HRM themes. And especially equal pay, that was a big surprise for me. I thought that equality would be considered a sustainability theme, but half of the respondents agreed to that.
Just to make clear for everyone listening, including myself. So, for example, the continuous learning, which was the one that has the highest score, does that mean that that topic has the best alignment between having practices, those are working and those are a priority, or it's something else?
No, it's purely the question, what themes of this list of themes would you consider to be part of sustainable HRM?
Even if there's nothing in my company?
Yes.
How do you explain this disparity of opinions?
If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, half of them is about climate. Basically, half of them is about human behavior, the social part. For climate, I think in the beginning also, we were not aware of what to do in our own house. What are the actions that you have to take to be a responsible, sustainable house owner? I think in the social part, so sustainability within work environments, I think we're a little bit behind. Not everybody has a clear understanding of what exactly do you need to do, or what sort of KPIs you need to hit to become a sustainable HR company. So that's actually why we do this research, to offer language and offer a framework where you can assess your organization and really see, okay, where am I at the moment with my organization? I think it's a little bit the same with the early days of climate transition.
An interesting finding from you as well was the fact that apparently large organizations, they are less satisfied, or people in large organizations are less satisfied with their progress on sustainable HRM. Is there an explanation for that as well?
Yeah, interestingly, small organizations score on average 3.5 on satisfaction, while large organizations score lower at 3.3. And large in this case is 1,000 employees or more. João, large organizations often struggle with a lack of strategy for crucial themes like innovation and creativity. It is sometimes considered to be not being. They don't really think it can be influenced by a company-wide strategy for that. So often it's left. These topics are left to the departments or even country units. So that's, I think, one explanation. But also our data shows a direct link. So organizations with a clear strategy are significantly more satisfied with their progress. And large firms may have the resources, but they also face more complexity and structural barriers to really implement some change, across the board.
Slower to move.
I think so, yes, and more. How do you say that? Not centrally managed. It's more dispersed.
Any other important finding?
The equality paradox is there. So while 74% of respondents say they are satisfied with their progress on equal pay for equal work, it is actually the lowest priority. And this is a risk, because if equality is not prioritized because we think we've solved it, we might ignore existing gaps, such as the gender pay gap that still exists. What I find interesting is that the European Equal Pay Act will have its effect soon. And it seems that not all organizations are fully prepared for its effects. It seems that after some years of being a priority, equal work for equal pay for equal work, it seems that I think organizations feel that they've done everything they could, and they're now on the max, and they're that's it. But I think they maybe underestimate the effects of the new European Equal Pay Act and what they have to do for this topic in their organizations.
Can you remember anyone that doesn't know the impact of this act?
As I understand it, you have to be transparent. If there is a large difference in the pay that you give workers that have the same function, you need to be able to explain it in a very transparent way. Mm-hmm. But also, if somebody wants to work at your company, a candidate, they can already, before they work at your company, they can ask, are there any major differences between the pay that people get for this function within your company? And if so, why do they exist? So you really have to explain yourself if there are large differences. And if they are there, you really have to have a valid reason for that. So I see large organizations like the multinationals, they're already working for months on programs to be able to do this on a large scale. But I also see a lot of organizations who haven't even started. So it's a topic where, I mean, if you have to be transparent about such a sensitive topic, you need to have your house in order.
Probably most of the houses are not at that level yet.
Not fully.
So that raises the importance even more for this topic as well. So as a reminder again, if anyone is interested in getting into more details on this report, the link for it is on the video description for the website, and then you can download through the means there. So if someone is now listening, downloads the report, finds it interesting, what advice would you give to a company that would like to start looking seriously into sustainable HRM?
The first step for me, you do some sort of a self-assessment. So you'll understand where you are. It's a really simple survey. You can do it with your HR team, management team first, and it gives you just the language and some structure to have a conversation. So we have a strategy on diversity, but are we satisfied with the progress? Why is not everybody in the management team satisfied with progress? We typically offer a self-assessment and some form of a workshop. We don't have to do that ourselves. You can do it yourselves or with your existing advisor. It's not. It's available. It's out there. It's because we are also a social enterprise. We do this research actually from our foundation. Everything that's being done is available to all. It's not a commercial tool for us. If you decided to do the self-assessment and you think, okay, we're onto something, we are not satisfied with where we are today, we want to do something about it, it all starts actually with strategy. That's what we found in the report. If you don't have a really clear strategy for this topic, a topic that is hard to grasp sometimes, you will not get there. So focus on creating strategies for the sustainable HRM themes that are most important for your organization. That is something that comes out of the self-assessment. Broaden your definition. So really link productivity to well-being, because success in sustainable HRM naturally leads to higher productivity. And that's the topic that will get you buy-in at the board. Then define and integrate KPIs. So it's a multi-year plan. No doubt. If you want to stay on course, you have to have really clear goals and measurable goals and link them to the business strategy. That link is obvious, but sometimes it's not. It's forgotten, and then every year you have to defend your sustainable HRM project. And partner wisely. 67% of HR leaders find it important that their suppliers also put sustainability at the center of their services.
Mm-hmm.
But not all suppliers have adapted to the sustainable HRM way of working. And if you work with those suppliers, and then employees will notice inconsistency, because the technology they get, or the way they are approached, or the way that is they are communicated with, they will still feel like, okay, this is a company that is still designed by the design principle that you have to have as much economical value out of each employee for the lowest amount of money. So consistency in the whole employee journey becomes really important. So you have to check your suppliers.
So if I read this report and I want to assess my own company, what can I do?
Well, it's really easy. You can call me or approach me on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a self-assessment survey. You can do it with your HR leadership team or even with the board, because it's interesting also to see how satisfied they are with the progress on the different sustainable HR themes. And then you create priorities on in a really natural way, because with everybody doing the survey, you can see what kind of HR themes are prioritized by your own leadership team in HR, but also by the board. And that's a great starting point.
So I think the 2026 survey is open right now, correct?
Correct, yes.
What are the deadlines here for participating?
Yeah, so I think it will be open for maybe 4 more weeks. It's an annual initiative. The 2026 research edition is currently open, and we also aim for more international respondents, so more international audience. So it would be great if the listeners of this channel will fill out the survey. It only takes about 5 minutes, and you will receive the full report when it's launched later this year, in English, of course. And yeah, I can just say I think this kind of research is vital for the sector. To keep using independent data to move from ambition to action. But also, I think what I hear back, the feedback that I get from CHROs is they say, you provide me now with language and structure and a framework to address these themes in a strategic way in my organization. So it was not that we're doing nothing, but we had separate initiatives. But now you've connected things into a strategic framework, and that really helps them.
So I've left the link for participating in the video description if anyone is interested. Just to be clear, there's no cost in participating, right?
No, absolutely not.
No cost to download the report later on when the results are released.
No. This is really an initiative from our foundation, and this is how we want to give back.
What's stopping people? It's just 5 minutes. It's not a great place to work initiative that takes months to participate. It's just 5 minutes, and you, even if you don't participate, which you should later on in 4 weeks can access to the report as well. We are close to the end, Rogier, and everyone that comes into the show, I like to ask for a recommendation of potential next guest, someone with an interesting profile, project, interesting story. Who would you like to recommend?
Femke Hellemons. She is actually the managing director of Adecco in the Netherlands. What she has done with the company over the past years is really an example of really good people and culture strategy can ignite your company.
Challenge accepted. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.